It is now my pleasure to introduce our special guest, a man who knows a thing or two about changing the world through innovation, knows a little bit about maps, knows a little bit about trying to make complex things simple. And that's Brian McClendon. Brian is currently Vice President of Advanced Technologies at Uber. He oversees a number of initiatives, including Uber Advanced Technology Center and mapping. Prior to joining Uber in 2015, Brian was a vice president with Google. He was co-founder of Keyhole Incorporated, a geospatial data visualization company that was purchased by Google to produce Google Earth, a technology that has fundamentally changed the way that we conceptualize the world and really changed the way that we traverse the world. Among his most notable achievements, Brian was inducted into the National Academy of Engineering in 2015. We are very, very proud of the fact that Brian is also a Jayhawk. He grew up in Lawrence and graduated from the University of Kansas in 1986 with a degree in electrical engineering. He has served on advisory boards for the School of Engineering and the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. He remains very connected to the university and very supportive of the university. He and his wife, Beth Ellen, established the McClendon Engineering Scholarships in 2007, and these scholarships have supported our students through generous donations of technology. He is a model for our students and for all of us in the room, and a wonderful illustration of the type of innovation that we're celebrating this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian McClendon.
Today I'd like to talk about Uber and changing the face of transportation. But as background, I did spend 10 years at Google, where Keyhole was acquired and put into Google, and we created a product called Google Earth. We then went into mapping and mapping services, desktop maps, and started taking pictures with Street View around the world. This led us to make maps and make mapping data to improve the quality of information at Google. And in 2013, we also acquired Waze, which is a social navigation app. So I've been mapping a long time. But something inspired me when talking to the founder of Uber. Uber is doing something that nobody else has really tried before. We're trying to make transportation as reliable as running water everywhere for everyone. And today I'll talk about three things, give you a sort of a basics on what makes Uber, talk about our impact on the community, and finally talk about the data and some of the hard technical challenges that we face and how we're trying to solve them using computers, engineering, and my education and so forth. So first of all, some of you have probably used Uber, but for those who haven't, you open the app on your phone, Android or iOS, and you're offered the opportunity to call a car to your location right now. Push a button, get a car. It's very easy, it's very fast, tells you how long it's coming, it shows you the car approaching you. And you can also input your destination as you're waiting for the car. So when you get in, the driver already knows where you're going. You can also just tell the driver where you'd like to go. When you arrive, because your payment information is already baked in, you can just leave, you're done, and you move on. However, both the rider and the driver have the opportunity to rate their experience. And this really helps improve the service by making sure that the driver has good feedback and the rider is performing well, because drivers want to have riders that are friendly and easy to carry around. So how did Uber start? It was founded in 2010, and here's a picture of what it looked like in 2011. It started as a black car service, and here you can see just a handful of cars operating in San Francisco. At the time, the taxi market, which it wasn't in, was about $100 million a year in San Francisco. So 4 years later, this is what it looks like. And you can see the little dark black cars there's still a black car service in San Francisco. We've since launched several other services, including UberX, which is the sort of taxi competitor. And we have now grown the market in San Francisco to several $100 million. And San Francisco is our most mature market, and it's still growing at over 100% per year. So the growth has been incredible, and that's actually one of the biggest challenges for Uber, is how to deal with such huge growth. One way is to go into more cities. Here's what London looks like, today at 5:30, and it's actually probably about that time. And it's very, a lot of coverage again, black cars and taxi. So where are we? In 5 years, we're now in 339 cities, 61 countries. We're hiring over 100,000 drivers who join the service as driver partners, and we're doing 2 million rides per day. 70% of Americans can get an Uber in under 10 minutes. So this growth is incredible. Why is it happening? Uber is based on the two-sided market and the incredible network effects that happen when you have this situation. So with a simple, lightweight application, we allow drivers to sign up to be a partner. We allow riders to download the app and get a ride. But what happens when you get more drivers? Well, the times go down, you get more reliable service, and more riders are interested. You get more riders, the drivers make more money, so you get more drivers. The drivers come in, and now they're being more efficient, so the prices go down, and you get more riders. And this causes explosive growth. And you can see some of the effects of it here in the next slide. 4 years of New York City. In 2012, when it was launched, it was about $37 average trip. It's down to $26 now. Now, in the same time, you see the money that the driver makes has gone up by more than 50%. So the driver's making more money even as the prices are coming down. This slide right here is actually the most important one. Utilization of drivers is why this works. If you can be more efficient, drivers make more money. So in 2012, you can see only 16 minutes were spent on trip where they were getting paid. In 2015, it's up to 32 minutes, so we've doubled utilization of those drivers. And this affects everything. For comparison, your car in your garage, or in the parking lot out there, is only used about 4%, less than an hour a day. Our goal with Uber drivers, their cars are being used efficiently more than half of every hour. Why? This number, which you see if you open the app, is actually the most important thing, and it's the thing that I spend all of my time worrying about and trying to improve. This is the ETA. This is how long it's going to take before your car comes. If that number is big, you get a bit frustrated, you might even decide to drive. If that number is low, it becomes magic. You click, the car comes up. Sometimes it's even faster than when you go down and start your car in the garage and open it all up. You can actually be more efficient having a driver from the outside. So this affects everything about Uber. As I said, from the dispatch, matching, and everything else is improved the lower we can get this number, and then keep it low, because there are some challenges with that. So you can see we've been decreasing wait times. Again, New York City, 4 years. Started out at 6.6 minutes average ETA. We're down to 3.4 minutes in New York, and hopefully can keep going from there. San Francisco, which we started in, is already down to 2.4 minutes. So that's even better. And as you can see, Kansas City is still at 5 minutes. We launched later in Kansas City. And Kansas City has an extra challenge, which it turns out that the metro area of Kansas City has more roads per capita than any other city in the United States. So the distances traveled are a bit farther, so it takes a bit longer. So how can we improve things further? One of the biggest challenges is the last 100 meters of the pickup. Can the driver find the rider, and vice versa? And so, the biggest problem is when they ask for the ride, maybe they type in the name of the place they're at, or they mark a pin on the map. And sometimes the pin isn't in the right place. Sometimes they're going to go walk somewhere and trying to pick where it's going to go. More typically, they just say, I'm in this building. And the driver struggles with which street do I pick you up on, and usually some communication occurs. Using machine learning and a lot of the data that we have, we've been able to create hotspots and say, for this building, we're pretty sure that these are the best places to stand, so pick one of them, move your pin there, and you'll get picked up faster and hopefully more efficiently, because as it turns out, not all streets are created equal. One-ways and a lot of other traffic restrictions make some things better than others. So how has this impacted things? As I said, contact rates where the driver has to call the rider and say, where are you, are dropping significantly with the launch of hotspots. And also the wait times are going down as well. So one of the big things to realize, though, is that taxis are not Uber's competitor. Uber is trying to compete with owning a car. So in urban areas, if you own a car and you have to go park, you have to pay sometimes to park near your own apartment or house. You also have to go pay to park at your destination, right? This is kind of expensive. So in urban areas, parking is a material fraction of the cost of a car. And so if you drive 5,000 miles a year, then it turns out that UberX is cheaper than owning a car. So for some folks who may have 2 cars in their family, getting rid of one of them on the second commute vehicle is pretty easy in some of this urban situations. But we can do better. UberPool. We launched UberPool in San Francisco, and the idea is that we're not just going to carry one passenger, we're going to carry multiple. So if we know your destination, and we realize that another passenger getting picked up nearby is going, sharing the route for at least the majority of it, we can pick that person up too, then drop you off, then drop that person off, or vice versa. We can also extend the chain and keep a continuous ride going. And so what this means is that even though UberX is already 40% cheaper than taxi, with UberPool, it can be up to 50% cheaper than that, because now you're sharing a ride with one or even more passengers in the car. And so UberPool is significantly reducing the cost of using Uber in cities where it's launched, San Francisco being the first. It also has other impacts. Obviously, when you have more people in the car, there's less congestion. And this is actually pretty important because as you've heard, the traffic in cities is getting worse, and that actually hurts everybody's ETAs, not just Uber's ETAs. So if we can reduce congestion on the roads, we make the cities more efficient. So UberPool is launched live in 11 cities, and there's over 100,000 users in cities using it each day. We've saved 1 million miles per month in San Francisco, and almost 50% of rides in San Francisco are already using UberPool. So what does that mean? Now let's compare it to somebody driving 10,000 miles a year. Now this is getting very much closer to the average in the United States, and you can see if you use UberPool, it's cheaper than owning a car for 10,000 miles a year. And now we're starting to make a big impact on car ownership. And I think if we can lower prices further, that can go farther. There's a couple other things we're doing to try to improve the service. One of them is smart routes, where we have sort of specialized routes that are a bit cheaper, and if you walk to a particular location and climb in, you'll get a lower price because we know, there's going to be common use cases there. We can carry multiple passengers, and it can be on long, efficient routes, so the driver doesn't spend a lot of time on pickups or drop-offs. It's all very quick. So smart routes are improving things. Another one we're launching in China is called Uber Commute, and where in this case, there's a lot of folks who are doing that long commute and aren't Uber drivers. If we can sign them up and say, hey, if you'd like to share your commute ride, we can enable a service. We'll find people to ride with you on that long trip into the city. And so we're giving that a try. And that's actually cutting down traffic significantly because now you're doing it on those big, hard commute roads that are usually very congested, especially in China. So let me talk a little bit about the impact of Uber on communities. So here is a map of sort of the penetration of Uber in New York City. And you can see it started out in Manhattan, but it's now extended to large numbers outside of the urban borough. So, New York City started cabbing as a medallion service in 1930. And there was 13,327 medallions back then. And there's 13,327 medallions today. And that's a problem because a lot more people need rides, and it was causing artificially raised prices. And so that's one of the things that Uber is trying to do is help lower prices to make Uber more accessible to users. And so in this case, if you look at where Uber is driving, 35% of rides are outside of Manhattan. And this is much higher than the New York taxi service. So Uber is serving many underserved communities. Another interesting fact is that a lot of people who may have been more likely to drive to their job, are able to use transit because many of those rides in the boroughs are actually 2 transit lines. So they'll take a relatively short Uber ride, maybe a mile or less, to get into a train and then go into the city. And so we're extending transit to a much wider audience. And so lower income folks are able to not own a car. So we're trying to improve things that way as well. Another big impact of Uber is that it started and continues to be very popular late at night when folks who shouldn't be drinking realize this and decide to call an Uber instead of getting in their car. And this has greatly reduced DUI incidents in Seattle 1 year after launch down 10%. In California, drunk drive crashes fell 6.5% among drivers under 30. So younger drivers are crashing less. And this is the big one. In markets that Uber has entered in California, there's a measure, it's still a bit early, that 5% reduction in alcohol-related fatalities in California. So since almost 50% of fatalities in driving are caused by alcohol, this is a big impact. We have a lot farther to go, but Uber is continuing to grow, so I think we can continue to make an impact. Now I'll talk a little bit about some of the technical challenges, one in particular. We have a lot of data from traces from our drivers. We can use those GPS traces to do analysis and mapping. For example, 90% of the roads in Manhattan are covered by Uber drivers in 5 minutes. So we have a lot of information both about where the roads are, how they're used, how the speeds are going, where's the most efficient paths, and also how people are connecting within the city. So we use this to learn a lot of things and to improve the service. But going back to something I said before, ETAs, getting them low is one thing, keeping them low is another. You may have seen this if you've used Uber, surge pricing. So if we start to get into a situation where we're running low of drivers, we raise the prices a little bit to try and suss out who needs the ride right now and who can wait a little while. And the other thing it does is that when the prices go up, drivers move from wherever they were, which might be off duty, and come on duty and start to improve the service. And we've done, we have 2 sort of real-world experiments that show what happens here. This is one. Basically, a concert, sold-out concert ended at 11 o'clock, and huge amounts of demand for requests for rides. Well, we had surge pricing. You see drivers coming in with that green shape there, and we were able to meet the demand, and just 30 minutes later, surge pricing dropped, and the remainder of the concert crowd could get a ride home. So surge pricing worked. Now let's talk about surge price not working. We had an outage New Year's Eve in one city last year, and it was a problem. Basically, 75% of requests went unfulfilled, and the ETA times went way up, and it was just not a good situation. So we did not provide a good experience for users. So our goal is to try and make sure that Uber is always there in a short time when you push the button. Finally, one of the things we're working on is the Advanced Technology Center in Pittsburgh. We opened it earlier this year based on Carnegie Mellon expertise. We're working on safety and autonomy. The next steps in autonomous driving are happening right now, and they're happening in many companies around the world, and Uber is very focused on this. We think that this will change the face of transportation further, but it's still early days, and it's all very exciting. Thank you very much.